baby. It's time to talk all things Big Blue, the New York Giants. And we've got a very special guest to do that. Before we get there, this video today is presented by our friends over at Bayberry Automotive, integrity and everything, located on Route 57 across from Bayberry Plaza, the premier choice for auto repair in Liverpool, New York. A family-run business. And this guy's like family to us, baby. Let's bring him in. John Gosh darn Schmeelk, baby. Radio pre- and post-game, podcast host, do it all, man, as I like to say, for the New York Football Giants. What's up, John?
Paul, what's going on, man? You got the Giants music rocking. I like it.
Okay, yeah, we're in a great place. And let me get here right off the top. Is there something, in your being, your body, when training camp arrives and football's, only, a couple. I mean, we got a football game here this month, the Hall of Fame game. So football is nearly back here, my friend.
Yeah, the gears are starting to turn a little bit. The players report to the Giants. The first practice is the 23rd. Players get here on the 22nd. So we're starting to kick the adrenaline going a little bit. Had a couple weeks off. You get to recharge the battery. I believe we're recording this. It's 50 days till kickoff. So the countdown has begun to what hopefully will be a better season for the New York Football Giants.
There's a lot to get into here. Let's start here. Something I really enjoy every year is a good buddy of mine, ESPN NFL insider Jeremy Fowler, releases the top 10 rankings for all the positions going through the summer. It's a great way to get us day by day, even closer to training camp. And the wide receiver rankings drop. And before I click the article, I'm like, I wonder if Malik Neighbors is on here. And if he is, where is he? Where could he be? And I went, whoa, mamacita. He was ranked as the number 7 best wide receiver in football. Obviously, he was not eligible to even be on the list last year because he was a rookie. And some members of the panel, and this is scouts, coaches, and league executives, had him ranked as high as the 4th best receiver in football after that rookie season. Are you surprised by any of this hubbub for Neighbors?
I mean, no, but I think I'm surprised that people got there so quickly. I'm always one that wants to see evidence of more than 1 year before I completely buy into something. And I made that mistake last year. I kind of bought in on the CJ Stroud stuff after 1 year, then he had a down year in year 2. No, I think his 3rd year is going to be huge. So let's see Malik Neighbors do it for a 2nd consecutive year. But was there anything that I saw last year that would make me doubt that he has the ability to be a top 5 NFL wide receiver? The answer would be no. He's that talented. He's that good. He is that a much of a wide array of skills. He can do contested catches. He can win over the top with speed. He can run after catch. He can run pretty good routes. So he's shown that he can be a true 1A wide receiver. The fact that after his rookie year, he's already in the top 10, I think is pretty impressive and pretty telling.
Yes, and I don't want to use the word concerning because that's like too aggressive, but like he's the 7th best receiver in football, so we're nitpicking here. But what didn't happen last year, I guess, for lack of a better word, or what do you want to see from Neighbors as you head into year 2? What sort of progression as you saw Malik Neighbors from pillar to post that now you want to see here in year 2?
2 things. One, don't be on the injury report all the time. There was always something kind of chronic that, maybe chronic's the wrong word, but something that popped up. All right, he's dealing with this. He's dealing with that. He's dealing with this. He's dealing with that. So I think get rid of that, stay healthy, be good. And I think they were being a little bit more careful with him this offseason. He didn't really do anything full speed in the spring, trying to, I think, get that turf toe issue that he's had from going back to his college days under control and making sure he's 100% good to go. So I think they purposely took that route there as a staff to try to make sure he was 100% at the start of the year. He's so explosive and he's such a physical player. Look at a guy like Deebo Samuel, who's not as explosive as Neighbors, but certainly is as physical, if not more so. And you kind of have to manage that sort of stuff. So I think that's number 1. And number 2, and he got a better at this as the year went along, but he had critical drops in big spots last year. End of games, balls that he knows he should catch that were easy to catch. And he just did not make some of those plays that he could have. So those would be the 2 things. And again, I think the drops in big spots, which are mostly concentration drops, got resolved later in the year, but just be more consistent every play. And I think, that had naturally happens when you stop being a rookie and you head into your 2nd year. So those would be the 2 things that I would keep an eye on with him.
And because we brought up the Jeremy Fowler rankings, we got to bring up these ones from a little bit earlier in this process. Dexter Lawrence, the number one defensive tackle in football. Whoa, mama, I ask you this. What changed for Sexy Dexy last year where finally RESPECT? This is what Aretha Franklin sang about so many years ago, John. What happened last year that didn't happen in all the previous years for Dexter Lawrence?
And he should be, by the way. He should be number one. And I think he had been playing at that level for a couple of years. He's been that dominant. I've been now covering the Giants since 2006. I've never seen a player as dominant as him at the defensive tackle position. You can't block him with a guy. He moves people around. He's powerful. He's fast. He's explosive. He's the best defensive tackle in the game. And he might be the most dominant defensive player in the game from just snap in, snap out, his ability to just consistently win. So I think, it just takes some time for people to realize that. And his sack numbers popped up last year. He had, what did he finish with last year? 6.5, but he did in only like 12 games, right? Or maybe he may not even 8 last year. So, but he did it even though he missed the last month of the year with that elbow injury that he had. So I think you could project that to double-digit sacks if he plays a whole year. And for
nine last year,
exactly, he had 9. So if he can, for a guy to do that at 345 pounds is somewhat ridiculous. So yeah, he deserves to be there. And I think you're seeing over the time of Joe Shane's tenure, and again, Dexter Lawrence came in under Dave Gettleman, but you're seeing the overall talent on this roster increase, and it's better. And I'm sure we'll get to this. It's just a matter if you can figure out the quarterback position.
Is there any there? So, this is the team versus player thing, right? So the Giants were ahead of paying Dexter Lawrence, and they did, and you pay him wherever you are and wherever he ranks. And then obviously as time goes by, other guys top him. They go higher and higher and higher. And the Giants are like, hey, pat ourselves on the back. Booyah, baby. This is what you hope for. You pay your guy, and then as it ages like a fine wine as it goes through. Now, Dexter still has a lot of years left in his deal. Is there any there that he's like, now, wait just a second, I'm number one defensive tackle. What the hell? This is no longer commensurate with what I've been producing. Is there any chatter about that? Or, hey, man, you got 3 years left on your deal. It's time to play some football, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I mean, Dexter was here in the spring, so I have not heard any unhappiness publicly about that in terms of what Dexter Lawrence looking at with his contract. That's the benefit for the team of doing something early. And the benefit for Dexter is that he got all the security, right? Where if he had a big injury, he would have had that money no matter what. So look, would it surprise me if down the line, whether it's this summer or in the future, the Giants gave him a little bit more cash because they think he's the best defensive tackle in the league and they want to pay him like that? Sure. But to your point, he's got a lot of years left. I'm sure that's something that they can figure out behind closed doors.
Okay, since we're talking about all this defensive linemen, you said you've been covering the team since 2006. You've been all the way back there. That means one player that you covered somewhere between then and now is Jason Pierre-Paul. JPP recently did an interview with ESPN, and unfortunately talking about the July 4th incident. So they were talking about, sort of how his life has sort of been changed and everything with that. But in that article, hidden in there is he's like, hey, I'd love a reunion with the New York Giants, baby. That'd be beautiful. There'd be something poetic about that. And JPP has 94.5 career sacks. So he's 5.5 from topping 100, triple digits. And JPP said that was important to him, and he'd love to do that with the Giants. So, John, JPP, Giants, reunion, you're Will Smith and Hitch? Are you going to make this happen?
I'm not sure he's got a ton left in the tank, to be totally honest with you. I'm just not sure that he does. He was here last year when the Giants did their 100th anniversary celebration, had a chance to interview him. He was in great shape, man. He's lost a lot of weight from when he was here. That's what happens when you get older. Sometimes you got to play a little bit lighter. But the Giants have such a crowded edge room where they're already going to struggle to find time for the combination of Burns, Abdul Carter, and Kayvon Thibodeau. I'm not sure there's room at the end for JPP to get here and play any sort of significant number of snaps.
But are you a touchy-feely guy? Would that do anything for you, seeing him back in the blue there?
I mean, I like JPP. He's a good dude. The Giants also signed Chauncey Golston this offseason too, by the way, to a pretty decent contract. Right. So that's another guy that would take up some of those edge snaps. Look, I'd like to see him here, but look, eventually you have to make football decisions, and I'm not sure from a football perspective that's where they want to go.
Hey, I'm going to be honest, John, the NFL is an interesting beast. It's an enigma. There's all kinds of things I'm like, whoa, okay, I've been watching football for a long time. Didn't have that on the bingo card. Darren Waller unretiring and being traded from the Giants to the Dolphins. What in the world? What in the blue? What did you make of that when you got that da-na-na on the phone?
Yeah, I was out of the area and I was vacationing at that time, and I kind of missed it, and then I saw it and I was like, "Whoa, really? Huh? That's weird." But look, he still wants to play. Good for him. The Giants still had his rights, so they got a little something back for him. I think it makes sense for all parties involved, and I like Darren. He's a good dude. Hopefully, he has success there.
Well, let me ask you about this on the Darren Waller thing. Whatever I guess you get for a guy that you never thought you were ever going to get anything from again since he retired, I guess it is positive. But was there any thought of like Giants are like, hey, this Dolphins team's sort of desperate. They just traded away Jonnu Smith. They're desperately looking for a guy. The Giants could have gotten even more potentially for this Darren Waller trade.
Yeah, look, I don't know for a guy coming off 1 year of retirement, and frankly, before that, did not have a great year for the Giants anyway, is going to demand some type of large return. And I think internally, the Giants would then probably have to release him, right? Because if Darren Waller unretires, the Giants have his rights, and
Correct.
I don't think there's any room on the roster for him, so it would eventually probably cut him at the 53, and then they'd lose him for nothing, right? So yeah. I think it makes sense if you get something for him. Dolphins wanted to give something for him. It was a pick swap. I think a 6th round pick next year for a 7th round pick the following year. I think that was conditional or something like that. So yeah, I think it makes sense for all parties involved. And I think the Giants like their tight end room. I think they got some young guys in there that have an interesting combined set of skills. And I just don't think there was room for him here.
Fair enough. Again, we got so much more to get to. The quarterback situation, as John Schmeelk alluded to here, and a debate we had earlier this week on the show. John Schmeelk is going to settle the heck out of that. All that more coming up after this quick word from our sponsor, Bayberry Automotive.
Trust is everything when it comes to auto repairs. At Bayberry Automotive, they take trust seriously. Bayberry has a team of experienced and certified mechanics that are dedicated to providing exceptional customer service. And Bayberry stands behind its work with an exceptional 5-star rating from its many satisfied customers. Family run, integrity in everything. Bayberry Automotive, BayberryAutomotive.com.
Located on Route 57 across from Bayberry Plaza, the premier choice for auto repair in Liverpool.
Special shout out to Bayberry Automotive, integrity and everything. Located on Route 57 across from Bayberry Plaza, the premier choice for auto repair in Liverpool, New York. Our family-run business is beautiful. Let's get into it, John. The quarterbacks. I've tried to delay it as much as I could, talking about this and this and that. We got to get to it. What's the plan for Jaxson Dart, John Schmeelk, in training camp?
Play him when he's ready. Oh, in training camp, I think you'll see him see him with some time with the 2s. You'll see with some time with the 3s. And I think you also try to get him some snaps with the 1s from time to time. I think Russell Wilson will get the large majority of the snaps with the 1s, but we saw Jaxson Dart get some snaps with the 1s in the spring. I would expect they'll slide him in there and maybe even try to surprise him with some of those reps and opportunities to test to see whether or not he's ready and how prepared he is. And I think they'll slide him in there for some snaps with the 1s. But I think mostly him and Jameis will rotate with the 2s and 3s along with Tommy DeVito. And that's how he'll handle his work in camp. I think something very strange or, jarring would have to happen for him to be the starter week 1. To me, it's Russell Wilson, unless something really, really weird or bizarre happens. But I think they'll try to get him some work and get him ready behind the scenes as quickly as possible.
That would be the weirdest thing ever for Russell Wilson's entry point in the league, upending Matt Flynn, who is signed and supposed to be the guy. And then for the full poetic thing of Russell Wilson's clearly the guy and some guy named Jaxson Dart, it's a little different 1st-round quarterback to 3rd-round pick. But for that flip to happen, that'd be kind of weird, John.
It would be. And I don't expect that to happen. I know that I was walking around this morning and on ESPN, Mike Tannenbaum, I didn't even hear what he said. I just saw the lower 3rd, when should Jaxson Dart start? And I'm like, guys, we haven't seen him do anything yet. We've seen him playing T-shirts and shorts in the spring. So I think people need to be patient and let him develop behind the scenes. And I think the tough part about this, Paul, is that none of us are going to know when he's ready, right? Because once you get past the summer and you get past the preseason games, we're media, me, anyone, we're not going to see what he's doing in practice. He's probably going to do mostly scout team stuff. We don't know what the meeting rooms are like and how he's learning the offense. So we're going to have to trust Brian Daboll and his staff to tell us when Jaxson Dart is ready to go, because we're going to have no way of knowing.
And what a fascinating quarterback room the Jets have. So you have Russell Wilson, you got Jameis Winston, we have Jack Start. We mentioned my boy Tommy DeVito, baby, Tommy D, here from Syracuse, which we appreciated his time here with the Orange. My question is the preseason plan? Because okay, Russell Wilson's guy. That's what the contract says too. That he's clearly going to be the guy. So does he need any preseason time? Him and Jameis are proven veterans. Tommy's a younger guy, but he's been in the system longer than anybody. And then you have Jackson Dart. How does that all work out?
It's a good question. I think you'll definitely want to get all the quarterbacks sometime in the preseason. It's their first year in a new team, new system. I think they'd want to have Russell Wilson at least work on the mechanics, the communication between him and either Brian Daboll or Mike Kafka, whoever ends up calling plays, and have that in a game situation as their starter this year at some point during the summer. I imagine that would probably happen in preseason game number 2. If I had to bet against the Jets, though, that is the week of joint practices, so maybe they might wait till preseason game 3 for that. Would it shock me if Wilson just got into one preseason game? No. I would say 1 or 2. I would say you try to get Jackson Dart as many reps as you can just to get him a feel for the NFL. And then you want to give Jameis probably a couple, maybe 1 quarter in each one of the 3 games as well. And then you give Tommy DeVito at least a quarter in each one of the 3 games, and then you go from there.
Because we're speaking about quarterbacks, to take a step back, a guy who's no longer playing there, Eli Manning, I saw he was in the news because I was like, oh boy, that just makes a lot of sense. The Giants were looking at appeared for some, give up some of the stake and ownership, a small piece of the pie. Eli Manning is a Giants legend. Why wouldn't all those dots connect? But it looks like he's going to end up punting on this one because of Moolah, I saw there, John.
Well, NFL teams are expensive.
Yes.
It's not exactly pocket change you're putting together to buy one of these things. It's insane how the amount of value these teams have accumulated just shows what a great business and huge business the NFL is. So look, economics drives the world, man. I'm sure he'd love to do it, but money's money.
And I don't know if this is an official thing. I don't know if this is on the Giants website or something, but doesn't Eli Manning serve as some sort of ambassador role right now or something for the Giants?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he has an office upstairs. He does the Eli Manning show for us. He does a lot of other things off the field too. So yeah, he's still a very big part of the organization.
Okay, that's awesome. There for Eli Manning. Let's get back to the field here. So what position battles are you looking at in training camp? What titillates you, John Schmeelk?
I'm not sure how much position battles titillate me these days. I'm a little too old for that. But I take the second quarterback spot with I've just seen too much over the years, Paul. I just can't get that revved up. Deontay Banks and Cordell Flott, who's going to start across from, Paulson Adebo. I think they love and if they had their druthers that it would be Deontay Banks that would win that job. But I think we saw in the spring that they split the spots at the first cornerback, the starting quarterback spot almost equally. So which one of those guys wins the spot? That's something to keep an eye on. Who the defensive tackle is next to Dexter Lawrence. That's another spot that I would keep an eye on. Is it going to be Nacho again? Is it going to be Roy Robertson Harris? Does a dark horse emerge like a Darius Alexander that can seize that spot? So those are the 2 main spots to me. Can Evan Neal play well enough to uproot Greg Van Roten at right guard? I think that's Greg Van Roten's spot to lose. I think they have confidence in him as their starter. He played every snap last year on the offensive line for them. Over the course of the year, he played every offensive snap. So those are the 3 main ones. And then you have some lower ones on the depth chart, right? Like, can Jalen Hyatt fight his way into a consistent spot as a guy that gets a significant amount of snaps every game? And how do they work that? How do they try to use all 3 of those edge players at the same time? How do they utilize them? What's the running back rotation look like? Does Tyrone Tracy get 70% of the snaps? Does he get 50% of the snaps? I'm curious to see how they split those running back spots up. So things like that are a little bit, inside baseball and deeper down in the depth chart, but those are the things I'll be keeping an eye on.
Okay, position battles don't rev your engine. I appreciate the honesty, John. You're an honest guy. What about storylines? Is there any sex appeal there for you? Some storylines in training camp in Giants land?
I mean, I'm excited to see Abdul Carter with pads on. We saw him in shorts and T-shirts in the spring, and there's no contact, so you can only so much. But when he starts doing one-on-ones with these offensive linemen, unfortunately, I'm not sure Andrew Thomas is going to be ready to go to do those one-on-ones at the start of camp based on what he told us in the Giants Huddle podcast. So we might see him against, Jermaine Illuminor, guys like that, James Hudson. But I want to see what he looks like with pads on and see the power quotient to his game. We know he's a great athlete. We know he's flexible. We know he can bend. We know he can speed to the edge, dip and rip and all that stuff. But I want to see if he can bull rush and if that power shows up against NFL caliber offensive tackles. So I'm excited about that. Obviously, seeing how Jaxson Dart progresses. I warn people, don't take too much out of it. Even in preseason games, defenses are very vanilla. You obviously would rather have him do well than do poorly, but don't take too much out of, preseason games. We've seen quarterbacks look terrible in preseason and end up being good. We see quarterbacks look great in preseason and end up being terrible. So don't take too much out of it, but I'm excited to see how he does. And those are the main things that I'm keeping an eye on in terms of storylines that I think should be fun.
Yeah, I would say that was what I was going to say when you said Abdul Carter and Pats. I'm like, yeah, because in the spring we just don't get to see it. We just don't get a true test of trench warfare going on. So as soon as you said the Pats, I was like, ooh, Abdul Carter, Andrew Thomas. Grab your popcorn, baby. That's what I'm talking about. But okay, we'll have to wait for that. A good tease. That's all right. We'll delay that until we can see that later. That'll be spectacular. Let's go to this because this is a horrific memory for me as a Jets fan. But this Victor Cruz guy coming out of there, I'm like, who the hell is this? And then that the salsa dancing all over the place for maybe a future Giants Ring of Honor member, perhaps. But now what I want to ask about that is, what is the Hard Knocks story? That's what I love about Hard Knocks. Everyone loves different things. For me, the Hard Knocks thing is that player on the bottom of the roster that none of us expect anything from, but somehow they wiggle their way in, whether it's as crazy as a starting job or really, quite frankly, just making the roster and it's someone easy to root for. Who fits that profile?
That's a good question. If you take a look at the Giants depth chart, some of the young guys, I mean, I mentioned Jalen Hyde. He's not a guy that would, sneak onto the roster. Their undrafted free agent wide receivers, I thought looked pretty good in the spring. Specifically Bo Collins, Daquan Felton, and even Dalen Combre, who's an interesting guy who was mostly a special teams player in college. I think he has fewer than 30 catches in his collegiate career, but he actually looked pretty good as a receiver in the spring. So those are the three undrafted wide receivers I would keep an eye on as guys that maybe could surprise. I'm excited about Thomas Fidone, the tight end out of Nebraska. He was a day 3 pick for them, so I know some people overlook him. But when he came out of high school, and again, he was a 5th-round pick for the Giants, he was the second tight end in his recruiting class. He only went to Nebraska because that's where he's from, Council Bluffs. Just over the border. So he's big. He's got 34-inch arms. His RAS score was in the 9s. He's an athlete. He was productive. He ran a pro system in college under Matt Rule. So that's a guy that I think can kind of come on and maybe have a bigger impact than people think sooner than they think. And then the other guy I'll throw out there, he's not a young guy, but he's a veteran, but a name that I mentioned earlier that not a lot of people paid attention to this offseason. Roy Robertson Harris was a defensive tackle addition they brought in from Jacksonville. He's been a solid player his whole career. But talking to Andre Patterson, the Giants defensive line coach, I can tell you, they are excited about him. They think he can be a really good player and especially help their run defense on early downs. So that's a guy to keep an eye on as someone that could emerge as an impact player.
I love that. Great call there. And I think we'll be looking back to this interview in a couple of weeks and I think circling that player. Now, John, I need you to settle a debate. It came up earlier in the week. I won't tell you who is on what side. And so I'll just lay it to you straight. Is Lawrence Taylor a top 10 among the top 10 greatest players in NFL history? Is he on that list?
Is he among the top 10 greatest players in NFL history?
Yeah. Offense, defense, doesn't matter. It's all on the list. Is he one of the...
Absolutely. Yeah. You can argue he's a top 5 all-time player in NFL history. I mean, it's hard to argue he's not the best defensive player in the history of the game. So unless you're just going to list 10 quarterbacks, and I get the argument in which the top 10 guys are all quarterbacks because it's the most position, it's the most important position on the field. I get that argument, but I don't see how you could make that argument otherwise, to be totally honest with you.
Thank you. I said I wasn't going to tell you the sides, but gosh darn it, I said, of course, Lawrence there. And I made that same case, right? So we have 10 players. Boom, put them on the list. Okay, you want to put 4 or 5 quarterbacks on? Fine. I understand. Positional value, all that crazy crap. There's a few quarterbacks, Tom Brady's, Joe Montana's, you can't tell the history of the game without them. Fine, put them on the list. But okay, now let's get into this conversation. Who's the best defensive player of all time? Well, you can make a strong case. It's Lawrence Taylor. Okay, so he's on top of that pile. Now what are we talking about? How does he not make it into the top 10? So I was arguing with Giants fan Jim the Man Challenge. I'm just going to call him out right here on the show. How in God's green earth does he not make the top 10? That's ridiculous. Unbelievable.
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of surprised by the question because, I mean, best non-quarterbacks in NFL history, right? I think you're looking at Jerry Rice. You're looking at Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
I mean, could you make the argument at this point for Aaron Donald? I think you can have that
Ooh,
conversation.
I like that. Okay.
In that group, if you put a cornerback in there, would it be Deion Sanders? Would he be the cornerback you put in there in terms of
Sure.
greatest players in NFL history? I mean, if you're putting a middle linebacker, who would I put as the best? Who would you put as the best middle linebacker in NFL history? It's a good question. You want to go back?
Dick Butkus?
Yeah, maybe. If there's something more on the modern NFL side of things.
Oh,
I'm
Ray
not-
Lewis or something? Brian
Yeah, I
Urlacher?
guess Ray
Maybe
Lewis
one of
can
those
be an
guys?
argument there. I'd have to
Sure.
go down the list. I haven't thought
No,
about
right.
this,
Yeah.
but I mean, those and Ed Reed maybe at safety. Maybe
Oh,
as the
Ed
best
Reed's-
safety if
of
you want to talk about
course, right.
safety. So I think those are the guys you're talking about, and edge rushers. You obviously have Strahan.
Bruce
I
Smith
think
with 200, right? Who do you?
yeah,
do
Bruce
you,
Smith
do you
would be
just
in that
numbers,
conversation.
guys? I don't know.
Does JJ Watt start entering into that conversation at
Sure.
some point? He was excellent. So, those are the guys you talk about. But yeah, LT, top 10. Yeah, with a bullet. Absolutely.
Thank you. So I appreciate when Manchild watches this interview back. I hope that he feels terrible and goes to like his
he
church and confesses to the
Yes,
sins
he
of
should.
his forefathers. Like, come on, man. Ridiculous. Unbelievable.
I think he might have his Giants fandom revoked, actually, to be quite honest with you.
Can you guys do that there? Is there a card you guys can take away for that sort of take? Is that possible?
Maybe I'll text LT and I'll see if he wants to pay him a visit. I think maybe that's the best way we go about this.
That's it. That's the way. John Schmeelk, baby. Thank you so much for taking the time to give us this full preview of training camp and everything else for that matter. And thank you for settling that nonsense. I think it's clear as day now that you've put your stamp of approval here. I already felt pretty confident about it, but I feel even better about it now. So, John, thanks, baby. And I'm sure we'll be checking in. Enjoy training camp, and the season will be here before you know it, pal.
Nah, I appreciate it, man. Always fun to talk to you.
There we go. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.